Hey everyone, welcome to this month's TF Reviewers panel. And what we're going to be talking about on this panel, we're going to be talking about stop motion and the ideas and how we come to those ideas. That's why we're all stop motion animators here. But first, I got to plug the Tales from Teletran podcast because tomorrow night we will have FJ DeSanto on. So if you guys are not subscribed to the Input channel, that's my channel, go over there, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that way tomorrow night you don't miss the conversation that we have with FJ DeSanto. And of course, the mighty tformers.com is having their Beast Wars 25th anniversary starting September 21st. So head on over to tformers.com, check out all the awesome content that website has to offer for you and for everyone else who loves Transformers. Do it. Just do
Input.
it.
What time tomorrow is FJ DeSanto?
Tales from Teletran podcast is Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Thank you. Good to know.
No problem. So, glad you asked because I would have forgot to send the time out there. Just saying. So, what do you guys introduce yourself? Go in alphabetical order. So, starting from my right, since you're watching, that's the only way to watch it is, to the right. Cardboard Bots, you up first, bud.
Hi, I'm Cardboard Bots, and this is my first time doing a live stream like this, so I'm very happy to be here and excited. You can always check out my channel on YouTube, YouTube/Cardboard Bots. Make sure you're not typing in Cardboard Butts because you'll get something completely different.
Now I want to know. Now you've piqued my curiosity. BRB, fellas.
Crimson, it's your turn.
Yeah, so I'm Crimson Raptors. You can find me on YouTube, on Instagram, on Twitter at Crimson, like the dark red color. Raptors, Raptors. You also find me occasionally on the Tales from Teletran podcast. I'll be on there tomorrow, Saturday, with Input. And also, you'll see there will be stop motion animations that are on my channel on the YouTube. There's pretty much next to nothing on my Twitter because it's kind of there's nothing to do on Twitter. Then you also see Instagram, where I also occasionally post next to nothing at this point because I have completely been engrossed in both the full trailer that's coming out tomorrow. It was, yes, I understand it was supposed to be in July. It's got delayed, but it'll be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time on Saturday, and everybody will get to enjoy that. So hopefully that will be exciting as well for the Transformers Siege stop motion series I'm doing. And Lazy Eyebrow Reviewer, where can they find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Lazy Eyebrow, and anywhere else you find me is a bonus, because I just can't be bothered to let you all know. So, I mean, it's in the descriptions of my videos, but honestly, I've social media joke. In my opinion, anyway. If you like it, that's totally up to you.
And if you're in the Moncton area, you can just go look them up.
Wow, just out me like that. I looked up Cardboard Butts, and I found nothing. I feel lied to.
Quick, snap that up.
Ultra Marcus, where can they find you? Tell the audience where they can find you.
They can find me on YouTube under Ultra Marcus and on Instagram as Ultra_Marcus, and I'm not on anything else. So it's just there really for stop motion on YouTube and just Transformer pics really on Instagram. It seems to go down well enough. So yeah, that's me, and that's where you can find me.
If they don't put the underscore, will they find something else as well?
Now, apparently on Insta, it automatically puts an underscore between words, which is really annoying. But so that's how that works. That's how they rock it over there.
I want to know why underscore is such a long word for such a short symbol.
I know, right?
It's a valid point. Now, guys, before we move into the stop motion conversation, a few things that we do have to discuss. Hasbro's Fan First Fridays. What'd you guys think of 86 Perceptor, Coronation Starscream, Sweeps, and the Hasbro or the Haslab Star Saber Victory Saber pack. Full discussion on this one. What do you guys think? Cardboard Bots, you want to lead in?
Sure. I'm not a big one for following these, fan Fridays. I'm just not in the loop, as they say. I never happened to get one of those starscreams, so this would be an opportunity for me to pick up a new starscream. I didn't get the Earthrise one, so it would be nice to have a Coronation starscream. I've already got a Scourge, so I don't think I need to get sweeps. And the Perceptor looks nice. He's kind of cute, but I'm not really into the Fan Fridays too much, and the whole Victory Saber thing is not in my wheelhouse at all, and certainly not in my price point these days. So that seemed like a big deal for Hasbro Pulse, but Hasbro Pulse up here in Canada is very difficult to get. Well, it's not difficult to get product from, but it's just very expensive to get the shipping.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that for Dennis. If Dennis was here, he would tell you that.
By Dennis, you mean Gotbot?
I was going to say, I'm sure I've heard that discussed on Gotbot's channel.
Very much so.
The difficulty of shipping to Canada.
It's like if we want a deluxe figure and it's $30 Canadian, we have to pay an additional $30 Canadian for shipping. And it's like, I'm not paying $60 for a Gnaw, for instance. I'm not paying $60 for Gnaw. It's not happening.
So devil's advocate on that, though, at least you're guaranteed you'll get it. I mean, they won't cancel you like Amazon does.
At the same time, there's other ways for us Canadians to get it. We can pre-order through EB. There's other third-party retailers within Canada that we can also get from that will charge us $10 shipping, or if we can stack our order, free shipping. So,
yeah, one of the things I was surprised by was the Coronation Starscream, because I thought that might be one of the Perfection. What's the name of the line that they call that they do the dice paint jobs on now?
Red.
Oh,
is it perfect?
No, there's a Megatron and a Prime and a Starscream. I can't remember. It's not red, is it?
No,
I have no idea what you're talking about then.
You're talking about the one that Takara's making?
Yeah, the one that Takara's doing.
The premium finish. Those are
premium finish. That's what I'm thinking of. So I would have thought like a Coronation Starscream would have came out in that line and made it like a Japanese exclusive or something like that. So I'm happy that we're actually going to get one. I would have been really interested in like a proper Studio Series Ultra Magnus that was different from what Earthrise was. But that's not. I don't know if that's ever going to come.
I don't blame you. There's a lot of interesting choices as of late that they're making with releases but anyway, I'm just the host. I don't have an opinion. So Crimson, what do you think about these figures?
I'm super excited about the chair that comes with Leader Class Starscream.
what a life! What? Aim high,
like a man without a printer.
Oh, I have a printer. It's just still in its box.
What are you excited for?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like the Earthrise Starscream. I mean, I've made my opinion very clear about it on Tales from Teletran, but I do not like that mold at all. I think it's a huge step back from the wrist articulation, the waist swivel, everything that we got with Siege Starscream. I mean, if you were to hand both of those to somebody who didn't know any better, they'd say, "Oh, this Earthrise came first, and then the Cyber Premium looking one. Yeah, it's much more well developed." Also, there's something about the head that's off on that Earthrise, but the paint scheme on it looks good. Or lack thereof, because they've tried to make it more cartoony. But the chair is not the Coronation chair. Some people have mentioned that and said that, like in chats and other places. But that's what Megatron had on the Nemesis. Yes, it's Megatron's chair. So, and we only see it the one time. We don't ever see it again. So it's weird to even have it as a little add-on. But I do like that. Yeah.
Maybe Astrotrain had it like in his back compartment or something. He was hauling it around. And
that might be it.
Chair.
Yeah.
I finally get the captain's chair.
Right?
Is the starscream any bigger? Is it sized up, or is the extra
No,
cost with
So,
No.
it's the same.
Same.
It's the
He's
same
got
thing,
he's got
except it
hands
does
that can
have.
open up. That's it.
Yeah, he's got hinged hands. We don't know if there's wrist swivel on the hands yet.
It's got shoulder
He's-
pads.
He has no paint at all on his tail fins this time around. So it's
What?
just totally blue, like the cartoon. It's
Listen,
really
this-
strange.
This is the Starscream to get, right? I mean, that's it.
oh, absolutely.
Like
Agreed.
the Earthrise doesn't come close to it.
Well,
I really like the Earthrise mold. So
Well, it's just a
fine,
classic
but
mold.
Siege is better.
yeah, that's why I like it so much.
Oh,
Yeah, it just I don't know. It just the chair I'm the most excited for. I feel like the $50 entry fee for it though. I mean, at least I'm getting a good looking Earthrise Starscream that I can have in alt mode. So it's kind of like that's like a freebie because for most of the stuff like 3D printed or if you had somebody else farm it out to $50 for that size of chair is about that cost that I've seen online. Even I think Moss Toys back in the day had was going to try to offer this chair from Masterpiece Megatron, of course that never got made, but the file's out there somewhere, and it's huge. It's kind of hard to get somebody to find the right purple, print it with the quality that you want, and has that kind of size bed without having to part it all apart, or slice it all apart. Actually, I mean. But yeah, so it'll probably be super hollow chair, but I'm stoked for that.
Debate.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, like parting it out isn't that bad if you can conceal the seams good enough. In my opinion.
Yeah, I think they could do. Somebody could have designed one where like the little side panels or whatnot of the. I want to call it a recliner, right? So it's like the where you put your arms and stuff, like the armrests. Like those could be like a 5mm ported in. And then you'd have the back part would be all itself. The seat would be a separate part, so you'd have 4 different parts right there. So that would be kind of cool if somebody could 5mm part it and then somehow attach it to Airwave and all the other
Well, if
modulators.
I'm not mistaken, also the Starscream's not that wide. It should fit within a 23 centimeters cubed square. Anyway, that's a whole printing debate we're not getting into today.
they could just have made a cardboard insert for Starscream for a throne. I mean, back in the day, they did things like make cardboard trailers for Prime and that sort of thing. So, how they, in Studio Series, how they make those backdrops, they could even like make little accessories with those inserts if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad idea, and that would actually knock the price down quite a bit. And considering most of us would just have that Starscream on display anyway, I think that would hold up pretty well.
I think the Perceptor is very gorgeous looking too. Like I have the Takara Legends Titans Return Perceptor, and that's a good figure, good color match to the cartoon. The Titans Return was more of a color match to the G1 toy, but this one pretty much knocks that one out of the park and comes with a little gun. I actually bought the G1 Toys gun and put that in Titans Return Takara Legends Perceptor, because they're all 5mm ports, right? Or most of those weapons are. And it looks good with him, but now we're getting an official one, so I'm super stoked about that. And acknowledgement of his tank mode from the Diaclone era is something I never thought we'd see in anything official Transformers.
I thought you said taint mode.
Yeah, that too.
Wow.
But no, like I'm a little, because see, like it's written in the old, like the Transformers the movie script. He was originally supposed to be in tank mode on the battlement of Autobot City. So when he sees the army come in or whatever, then he turns around and tells Ultra Magnus, "Hey, we're outnumbered." But they decided not to do that. Keep him with his microscope mode because they didn't want to triple change him up, because they never acknowledge it in season 2. So that's kind of cool to see that with this toy, and it's really easy to do. So
And they can do a really easy Diaclone repaint for him as well.
Yeah, they could do like a what is it, Magnificence or whatever? Is that what they call them in Diaclone?
Maleficent?
black-
Yeah.
We use black, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense for a black
Magnificus.
microscope.
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was strange in the movie that he's sitting there in microscope mode in the middle of a battle, and he's like, "Hey, we're outnumbered." I was like, "Well, how do you work that out?" "Well, I've just been in microscope mode doing some science, you know. I ran the numbers, and we're outnumbered." So it would have made more sense being in that tank mode, but I suppose if Hasbro didn't want it, then it didn't happen. But, yeah, I always used to think, "What are you doing? What are you doing in the middle of this battle, Perceptor?" But there you go.
Oh, just researching.
I was over here looking at the water, looking over the edge, wondering if I'd take a swim.
Oh, I'm a pacifist, but thanks.
I mean, it is kind of a fun, probably for a different panel, but it is kind of a fun question of, we never did get to see that shuttle that the Decepticons, captured, right? That Hot Rod fired at. We never saw that land. So was it on autopilot, or did it just crash somewhere? And that's what Perceptor was originally looking at.
The great mystery of Transformers movie. Where did that shuttle go?
Yeah, did it crash? That's a good point. Are those did it land peacefully at the side of the battlefield?
Transformers, what if?
And yield its horrific surprises after the battle. Oh, look, I found Ironhide, everybody. Or did it crash? Yeah.
Braun was still alive the whole time until it crashed.
I'll just do Perceptor. Yeah, I like the look of him. I don't have another Perceptor apart from the G1 one, so he's going to fit into my collection of Generations collection very nicely. I'll probably pass on the Starscream because I've invested in the Siege mold. I didn't get any of the Earthrise molds, and it would be weird just having one star. Well, I have a G2 Ramjet here, but I was just drawn by the colors. The chair would be nice, but Starscream would be the last person I'd put sitting in it. But I'm probably not going to get that. What else was there?
There was
Victory Leo.
Victory Saber.
Yeah, Victory Leo, Victory Saber, or Star Saber. I don't know about this. Like,
maybe if I saw them in store, but I know that's not what this is all about. If I saw them in store and I liked the look of them, then maybe. But I don't know. Paying $180 for something that I don't get to see for
$180 US.
Yeah. And I won't get to see it until the week.
Price point.
I gotta jump in. I gotta jump in and say this: that the V cannon being put behind a tier wall is a bunch of crap, because that V cannon is Victory Leo's gun. That is his weapon. That's what he's known for. He's known for that big old FU rifle, and they put it behind a tier wall.
Yeah, but they'll get it. It'll happen.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I don't know.
So that to me kind of feels mishandled. To say the least there. Yeah, that's not right. And I think it also comes with the blast effects as well. So I don't think it has any blast effects if it doesn't reach 14,000 backers. And the other thing about it is this guy is way undersized for what he's supposed to be. Now, I've said multiple times, I don't care about scale, but certain figures are supposed to be huge. Certain figures or certain characters should always be a truck. Optimus Prime should always be a truck. Don't care what truck.
How big is it? I didn't see this. Were they holding it? Were they holding like a
Victory?
mock-up?
So Victory Leo is leader class, and then Voyager class, and then Star Saber is leader class. So right now it's rumored to be Star Saber is about Grimlock, 86 Grimlock size, which is completely wrong. He's supposed to be commander class. They're both supposed to be commander class. They're both supposed to be the size of a combiner, be the same size. And to give you guys an idea of how big Star Saber is,
it's about the size of Jetfire.
Yeah, exactly. Commander class Jetfire. He's supposed to be massive. And this just doesn't. If you're going to do Haslab, if Haslab was going to do this, I don't see why they couldn't do 2 commander class figures, especially when the engineering is roughly the same engineering as either the Masterpiece or the G1 figure for both figures. So it doesn't seem like that'd be too difficult to accomplish. But yeah, those are my only 2. I wouldn't say gripes, but not even nitpicks, but just glaring.
Might as well reference our friend Dennis, who was supposed to be here but can't be. I kind of agree with him. Like, why is the biggest toy company in the world doing crowdfunding? I don't want to give over £180, and it is. There's no difference in the exchange rate. It's $180 and it's £180. That doesn't match up. One of us
insane.
I can't work it out with my stupid brain, but one of us is being overcharged.
You guys are being overcharged.
We're being overcharged, and
Yeah.
I just don't want to give that money now and not get it. It's bad enough waiting a couple of months for a pre-order. I got to wait over a year to get a return on my almost $200. I know some people do it and are gonna do it, and I'm sure it will get its funding and all that, but it ain't my bag. It's, like I said, if I saw it on a shelf and I could see it and I could see people reviewing it, I might be drawn to buy it, but not under these circumstances.
Do you have any connection to the character at all?
No, I don't. I haven't yet. I keep promising myself I'm going to watch some of these Japanese shows, but I can't get past like the first 5 episodes of the Headmasters, and I know all those characters. I'm all in on the Black Zarek because I have a bit of an affiliation with Zarek. Lazy, we can't hear you. I think if you're trying to speak.
I was. My recommendation is, like, if you can slog through Headmasters, great. But what I've been told, skip Headmasters, jump straight into whatever's after that. I think it's Victory.
Godmaster Force.
Master Force is apparently incredible, and I haven't gotten into it, but I've been trying to.
Master
Force, where you get the Pretenders?
Master Force picks up about halfway through. Master Force starts getting it's a bit of a slog in the beginning. But I'd say like the first 6 or 7 episodes, bit of a slog, but after that it gets going really, really well. Master Force does. And then Victory from the word go, pun intended, is a masterpiece. It's a great anime.
Yeah, Victory is definitely a standout in pretty much probably all of the Transformers series or continuities. It's the most unique of them, in the fact that it kind of attempted to retell a story, a G1 story, but with different characters, and succeeded at it, where others didn't.
Yeah, and they wiped the slate clean at 100%. So with everybody, and I'm not going to spoil. Well, I'll spoil a little bit. Humans die in Victory, like straight up die, and they show it. I mean, it's pretty. I feel like it's pretty ballsy.
I haven't seen it.
And characters too. Characters die in it too. Like, I mean, they were pretty much like if the Transformers the movie. It's kind of almost like if season 3 had Transformers the movie scriptwriters. They kind of went with that, if that makes any kind of sense.
Well, it's a very Japanese anime.
Mm-hmm.
Very of that era.
If this is for a Japanese audience, why is it going to Hasbro Pulse?
Well, that's the reason why, right? Like, so to answer Ultramarcus' question is this has next to almost no market in anywhere outside of Japan, and people can say, okay, well, yeah, Star Saber is a popular character, Victory Leo less or so, but the main thing is that when you're trying to present that to accountants or anything, doesn't matter how much money a company is making, they're gonna say no on this. Like, we don't know who that is. Like, a Metro Titan, an evil Metroplex. No, we're gonna not sign on that either. This is a way to get the toy designers to circumvent those bean counters and 100% get something that they want made and designed. My problem with stuff like this is just looking at the photos. Yes, they're digital renders, but looking at like Victory Leo's guns, the underside, why are they hollow? If this is 100% fully funded by customers, stop that.
That's a tier level. They'll fill in the hollow bits if you go up.
But that would be hilarious. Like, hey,
get your wallet out, Crimson.
The same argument can be made for Unicron. Like, that thing was fully crowdfunded, and the thing is just a giant shell former. Like, some people like it because it's huge and because of what it turns into and all that. But I'm, for one, is like 01 Studio Cell or whatever Zeta Toy, whatever you want to call it, was infinitely better fiddly as it was, just because of how much engineering know-how went into making it a good bot and a good ball.
Right, but Zeta failed with, getting it to transform correctly and having the right colors and alt mode. Where, when you have like a shell former stuff, that didn't work with Haslab. Like the planet mode is what most people were going to have it in, will say. And that they got those colors right. It's except for the maw. Like they screwed us all over with the maw.
Like the only way to do that was to make it so you can unscrew the whole planet, and provided you have a printed little extra band, you could have two modes at the same time. Neither mode is dependent on each other.
So it's a giant RC.
Yeah.
Right.
That's like for $800. I don't see where that's going.
Well, I will say because of Unicron, that's what makes me really cautious about this. I will say that Hasbro or Haslab seems as if though they learned from their Sentinel or learned from Unicron and they applied it to the Sentinel and Galactus. But I will also say they're a little bit more loving to their Marvel Legends fans. They're really abusive to their Transformers fans, I feel like. And
because there's more money in Marvel than there is in Transformers, unfortunately.
Yeah, but Hasbro owns the brand, and if Hasbro really wanted to make more money than Marvel Legends, they really could. They could really, really push any of the brands that they own to be on that level. And that's I don't understand. You're giving us 3D renders and they're black and white, like they're grayscale renders. You could at least give some kind of coloring there. They did that with Unicron. They gave us coloring and then they changed it last second. So who knows? Maybe that's part of what they learned from Unicron.
I think they give themselves a lot more leeway when they have it gray. There's more potential to what it can look like and what it can be painted like. And once you start coloring it digitally, then you start setting expectations. So it's kind of a safe way for them to do it, I think.
That's fair, and that's what I was saying too. Is like that's probably one of the lessons that they learned from Unicron, not to digitally color anything. But they've also shown with their Sentinel and their Galactus, they've shown actual colors. They've shown actual figures and like colored figures and stuff. So that's why I'm cautious. I just think my concern more is, even like who, you probably know this better input, but there's the Brainmaster, and then what is there, the robot Saber? Is that what Saber. Yeah, there's the Brainmaster of Courage, and then Saber is the robot, and then when he's
right, so
combined with the jet,
Star Saber. I just want to talk about who is it? Robot Saber, you said? That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah, the deluxe figure is Saber.
Yeah, so he's got super hollow arms in this render. These are worse than Voyager Siege Megatron, and it's like, somebody had to take a picture of that, show it, and nobody else decided to add a little flap there or something like that. But it's that kind of stuff that kind of irks me on things that are crowdfunded. So I don't mind them being crowdfunded, as long as they're around this kind of price, right? And they're closer to their retail. But if they're going to do this, they're going to pull that as if it were a retail product, then that doesn't work for me. And I'm tempted to get this because I didn't get the Masterpiece Star Saber, because I've heard that one is not really Masterpiece quality. It's more of a cartoon kind of quality to it. But a lot of people love it. A lot of other people don't. But I agree with why isn't Victor Elio getting his gun? Like that's iconic to that character. That's like Prime without a gun, right? Input's right on that. So I don't know. It's weird, but I would just take it as like this particular project is something that wouldn't sell well. It wouldn't do well in any kind of retail outlet outside of Japan. No matter how much you like the series, no matter how great we all know the series is, there's not enough recognition for Star Saber out there. And I'm surprised that the Seacons did as well as they did for coming from Master Force and from G1. So I'm curious as to what if we would get like a pretty large overlord with this too, or is this just to match the overlord? Those are interesting questions to ask the team.
Well, I'll say this before we move on to the next subject, is that this is a really interesting situation that Haslab has kind of showed their hand, because we are expecting new combiners. We're expecting a new Minosaur, and rumor has it that Motormaster is supposed to be a commander class. So, trailer, Voyager class figure with a trailer, essentially what they did with Rodimus. So with the Haslab and all that stuff, can they produce the bigger figures financially at this point? Post COVID and all that stuff. Can they do that? Are they afraid to do that? And it's kind of like the bigger question. I feel like it's the bigger question anyway. So anyway, moving on.
Well, real quick on that, you mentioned about can they do the numbers? Like, the target they put on this was 11,000. That's absolutely ridiculous for a Transformers product for this character. I think 6,000, 8,000, but this shows you right here their normal minimum runs for factories are around that 10K range. So they're trying to hedge their bets and getting that 11K. Galactus was 14K, and that kind of eked over the last few days. I think it's got a few more days left, but it reached its goal. But I don't know if this can without a retail backing, without like BBTS or even Hasbro Pulse itself. Well,
we are I don't even know, 6 hours removed from the announcement, and it's already at like 3,500. So this is definitely it's definitely in the right direction for it to be backed. So starting with cardboard bots. And going around the table, so to speak. What usually, the question is for all you guys, but like I said, starting with cardboard bot, what usually inspires you to write a story?
Well, just before we get into that, I want to say that we haven't talked about the sweeps, and
I'm still waiting for my Scourge, but the sweeps.
Yeah. So I don't know if anyone wanted to talk about the sweeps before we go into that, but
at least they're a different color, so that's helpful. I don't know a lot of people. Yeah, it's a little brighter blue. So people were concerned.
Well, sign me up for 3 of them then.
All right.
Exactly.
What were you saying again? Input.
So the question for the panel, the first question for the panel is, what usually inspires you to write a story?
Well, I'm not really a story person per se. Sometimes I do little skits in my animations, but I think just someone giving me a limitation. I did some animations for Swagways contest one year, and the theme was like conflict, and I just didn't want to do like a robot battle, but I tried to come across conflict in a slightly different way. So I did this video of that one there. So Starscream and Megatron doing rock paper scissors as a contest, and that was conflict, right? So I think, and I wouldn't have thought about that unless someone gave me a challenge. Someone gave me something to work towards, because if I have limitless possibilities, I won't know what to make. But if someone can give me a starting point, then I can start making something. So a big thing what I do is I poll my users for what I review next. I ask them what they want to see and get their input, and things go from there. So you might have known that I put Fangry up a lot, this Titans Return Fangry, and he constantly gets downvoted.
I vote for Fangry every time.
And me.
So he starts showing up in the videos, and he starts getting shot and beaten and pushed aside, and that's because I'm just taking those cues. He's constantly ignored and constantly ridiculed, and it's become this sort of running joke now. But I wouldn't have thought of that unless I just let things go where people kind of indicate for me to go. I do everything I do in terms of I do some light script storyboarding, but most of the ideas I have are all spontaneous. And doing stop motion and being spontaneous, they don't mesh they're not supposed to go together. Stop motion is supposed to be fairly planned, so you know what shots you're going to do. And if you do things that are spontaneous, Lazy, you're saying stuff, but we can't hear you.
That's because I was talking quietly. It's like, and yet spontaneous works its way so well into what we do.
Yeah, it's just I've got lots of ideas when I get into that, but then I have to like cut out so many because I don't have the time to do the production of all those kind of little skits.
Yeah.
So if someone gives me like a starting point, then I can finish it. But if I just have to start with a blank page, I have no idea what to do.
Okay. I mean, that's real interesting because truthfully, I've watched your channel for ever since Lazy when you went away for a while and you said basically you gave your crown to Cardboard Bots. That's how long I've been watching you, Cardboard Bots, and I always truthfully watching your stop motion, I would never have guessed. Just from like from the little movie scenes that you've recreated and the little things that you've done in your stop motions and stuff like that, I would never have thought that would have been your thought process for it.
Yeah, I like. I'm very much a control-oriented person, but I like to take chaos and kind of use that as a starting point. Embrace the abstract, embrace the chaos, and let that guide you to somewhere. So you'll start with some sort of input. You don't know where it's going to end up, but you'll get there somehow.
That's awesome. Crimson, what's your process, man?
Cool. So I would say like a lot of it is, inspiration, from others, kind of watching their content and what they come up with. And, it depends on kind of, what it is that I'm wanting to make a stop motion. And most of the time I think of like, okay, what's a cool idea? Like, oh, okay. Like, one of my first animations I premiered on my channel, was a Gundam, stop motion animation that was for a stop motion animation a contest by Joshua Gandamu. He has his own story called Gundam Father of Peace. Really, really awesome if people have checked it out and you're into Mobile Suit Gundam. The Universal Century is mostly what it's about. And it's a side story to that official story. So, and that's not what's playing here on the screen right now. But the Gundam thing is just two figures, a poster board with where I took toothpicks of just going, kind of making the starlight and everything like that. That took like 4 hours to make. I totally don't recommend that. But the purpose of that was also not just for the contest, which I got third place in, but also to show that you don't need a lot of money. You don't need a DSLR camera. You don't need, a tremendous amount of stuff just to start out doing stop motion. Now everybody pretty much has smartphones, so that's how I shot that. I shot that on the old camera, so that's a 480p camera. But now everybody has smartphones, so you have a huge advantage right there with cameras. But it was just kind of like a proof of concept. Can you do all this 100% without any special effects? And so every animation I try to add a little more extra, and depending on that story, like a Godzilla story. That I did, the Death of Godzilla, which was also in a Swagwave animation contest as well. That has special effects in it because Godzilla has a heat ray. So you have to have something like that in. Something like a dinosaur, just Jurassic Park or a raptor in the jungle, anything like that. Those are not necessarily going to have like beam effects, things like that. But it will have something, maybe you could add in like, blood effects or, slash marks. Most of something like a dinosaur story is just kind of like, okay, just take something simple and kind of extrapolate on that. Is it, dinosaurs are hunting? Is it, like, are they, what time period? Are they in their time period? Are they in a different time period? When it comes to Transformers, most of my inspiration is straight from Generation 1 and from a lot of those type of characters, how I view those characters as. IDW has some good stories in it too, the old and not so much the new, but the old does. But the new does something that none of the other comics have done, where their bold new era, they kind of integrate a bunch of characters together that have never interacted before. And that's kind of what I'd like to have in my stories is, okay, so we know Shockwave is like this, he's very cold and logical. What if we add somebody like Transformers Prime Knockout, and they interact with each other? What kind of interaction can you get from those characters? Or you throw, like a G1 Grimlock into that mix, how does that play out? So it's just kind of that kind of story basis of just, what is it the story you're trying to tell? Is it a Godzilla story? Is it a dinosaur story? Is it a Transformer story? Is it something Mobile Suit Gundam? That is really more kind of what I'm thinking of. And then I'll come out with maybe like an Act 1, an Act 2, and Act 3, but obviously in a very short animation kind of situation, not like a 20-minute kind of episode situation.
All right, Lazy, what's your process?
Well, see, I'm kind of the same as Cardboard Bots up there in the sense that I don't write stories, but I'll write skits. And a lot of the process for my skits is like, for instance, I got one coming up. Well, it's not really so much a skit as it, anyways. For the studio cell, for instance, and I was just kind of goofing off with the toy and discovered the cell mode with the giant arms and a big ball, and that made me chuckle. And then I've got ADD, and I thought of like 3 other different ideas, and I picked the funniest one and wrote that down. So that's just, I don't know. That's my process for skits that I come up with before filming, and then half the skits I come up with during filming. One of the shots I did with Grimlock, just shaking Wheelie and chucking him to the side, I came up with that while I was filming. It's like Grimlock grabbed Wheelie, and I was going to just like have him carry off, and then I started shaking him, and then my brain said, let's throw him, and then I laughed, so I did that. And a lot of my skits just come on the fly, as Cardboard was saying about spontaneousness.
Spontaneity. I can't even say it since you messed it up.
Sorry.
Spontaneity.
Spontaneousness. Other times skits just come to me while I'm driving or something. I don't know. ADD comes into a huge play of this, of just, I don't know, I come up with ideas.
Do you have fun? When you've got a skit to do for which is going to be attached to your latest review,
right?
Like obviously the robot that you're reviewing is the star of the skit, maybe, or a major part. But isn't it fun to like look at the shelf and go, who can play a supporting role in this skit? Yeah. I used you last time, or you're new, you're in, or something. That's fun.
Yeah. I look at the shelf and it's like, you 4, you're in there. Who would be whining? Huffer would be whining. Huffer gets to be in this one. Sorry, Cardboard. I know how much you love Huffer.
I don't like Huffer. I don't know why people, just because I have so many Huffers here, that doesn't mean I like them at all. What
the heck are you collecting Huffers for?
It's an easy, low-hanging fruit to get. I just woke up one day and said, you know what? I'm going to get a Huffer. And then I said, I'm going to get another. And they're easy. There's no commitment to Huffer. You don't love him. He's not.
But we're not collectors like they are, Prime.
Exactly.
I will say this. I hope that by the time I'm done with Huffer in my new stop motion series, I hope everybody ends up loving him. That's my goal with Huffer.
I still want you to voice one of my Huffer skits, sort of. They're Cardboard.
Oh, you did such a great job with your whining Huffer guy. I love it.
No, I'm not. I don't mean voicing Huffer. We sort of briefly discussed it once. It was a song.
Well, Ultra Marcus, what's your
What's the question again? What usually inspires you to write a story? Well, I've got an ongoing story for which I have a sort of obviously I've got a beginning that's happened, but I've got a midpoint and I've got an ending. But to go back to the chaos that you guys mentioned, in between these points, I'm kind of making it up as I go along, and the snowball just gets bigger as it rolls down the hill. So at the end of each episode, I consider what I'd like to, how close I'd like to get to the next the point that I can see in the distance. How close do I want to get to it? So I make some bullet points, and then I'll flesh it out and write it. But I think it's a little bit different with an ongoing story. Trying to remember where different characters are and where they need to be at certain points is something to consider. How do I write a story? Okay. I've the thing on the screen now. That's my newest one. that's not my series. My series is G1, but I've been experimenting with doing some skits. I suppose in many ways, Lazy was in the back of my mind when I thought, let's do something funny with the modern figures. You know, let's make use of these things because I'm buying them and see if I enjoy working with them. So, I mean, they just come to you like Lazy said, when you're driving, when you're falling asleep at night or failing to fall asleep at night, and you're looking up at the ceiling thinking, oh, I could do this, I could do that. Or maybe a scene from a movie will inspire you. Anything is fair game in terms of getting a little bit of inspiration. I can't think, even in my series, I can't think of how many movie quotes I've stolen or modified or homaged. You know.
All alive.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I don't think the wife can count how many times she's just all of a sudden heard me burst out laughing from the other room, and she's like, what's funny? It's like, I don't know, something stupid I just thought of and I'm putting in my review now.
Yeah. The other half is like, what are you laughing at? Oh, you wouldn't get it. You wouldn't get it.
But my brain, that's what I'm laughing at.
I'll say go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because I've had so much fun releasing these. I've done 2 comedy skits with War for Cybertron figures, and I kind of had fun with that. But now I've got the desire to do something a little more substantial. So in work, I spent, don't tell my boss, but I spent 2 hours yesterday with a Word document open with the font size turned down to 6, so no one else could see what I was doing. writing a whole a page full for an idea.
I hope they're not watching.
Well, I hope so too. But when I enlarged the font and printed it out, it was like 3 pages. I was like, oh dear, okay. But yeah, like in work, the thing just came to me, and I thought, I'll type this up quickly. You never know when that idea. They do, and they usually are followed by other ideas. You know, and it's a waterfall, and you've got to catch as much of that water as you can, so you start typing.
Because if you come back to it tomorrow, you're not going to remember half the things you were going to think of.
Right.
Precisely. Yeah.
I'll catch myself like constantly hitting that save button, but because you'll know you'll like accidentally hit Control-Z when you're going through tabs or something like that. You'll be like, oh crap, I just deleted a whole page.
Hello.
I'll say for me, my process. My process is
hello. So yeah, sorry. The host. Yeah, the host is also a stop motion animator, ladies and gentlemen. Over to the host. Just teeing you.
Welcome
up.
in TFA. But I will say that my process is I feel like is different than a lot of you guys, but it's also the same. Like, so I'll go run in the mornings, and my scenes are very music driven. So while I'm running, my Zune, I'm old.
Whoa.
My Zune is on shuffle, so it goes everywhere from Michael Jackson to Disturbed to Slayer to Britney Spears. Like, it's all over the place, right?
Oh, that's nothing, man. But I don't want to turn this into a contest.
No, I mean, I'm trying to keep it. I'm trying to keep it simple. Like, people,
Sure.
I'm not going to say old man's child. I'm not going to throw them out there.
You mentioned
as somebody
Disturbed,
to
I'm
want
already
to,
hearing like this moment and like Stricken. I love Disturbed, man. It's such a great band.
Don't tell me you also listen to Phil Collins and Genesis.
Yes, I do actually. I
There's a
love
few
Phil
songs
Collins
that are
and I love
good,
Genesis.
Marcus. Come on.
But
Teed you up there. I love Genesis. I've seen them. Teed you up for that one, Enfant.
yeah, I know you totally did. So Ultra
I know
Market.
you remember.
So Phil Collins has more than one song. Everybody, I just want everybody to know that.
Another
But-
Day in Paradise.
I'm
You can't go wrong with that one.
I'm quite
Exactly, right? So like, but I'll be running and a music and a song will hit me, and then the scene will instantly hit my head. And it's 90% of the time it's an action scene, and I mean, but it within that 2 seconds, within that one step, it's everything hits me all at once. So I can see the entire scene, I could see who's in it, I could see who's shooting and at what and at who, and I could see the whole thing. So then I start to backtrack on that, and then I say, okay, what brought them to this point? What brings them to shooting? What brings them to fighting each other? And then when I get what brings them to that point, I have the aftermath. Okay, is someone dead? Did someone get, majorly injured? What's the fallout of this? And then what's the fallout of the fallout? And so that's where a lot of my story ideas come from. And I'll say I've also been doing a continuation of the G1 cartoon with season 5. And I've been kind of shoehorned into these different characterizations of certain characters. Ultra Magnus, when he pops up, he has to be Ultra Magnus, right? Because it's a G1 Magnus. So, but I've started a new series with the Netflix Deep Cover, and I'm kind of exploring, since he doesn't have a characterization, I'm kind of exploring what the character would be.
That's a good input. Like you have here's a character and he's a mystery, and what could he be?
And you can just go with anything.
I've kind of, if I can chime in,
Yeah,
I've kind of been doing that recently, or at least I've been trying to. I had this stop motion announced for a while now called Treason, a Tarn story involving IDW Tarn. It's kind of been a similar process, because it's like you can have a stop motion with like popular characters like Optimus, Megatron, the greats, obviously, but like you kind of look at some of the underdogs and some of the well-unknown ones, and you're like, well, maybe we can give these guys a little bit of spotlight, or they could be just like a toy-only character, like you mentioned, Deep Cover, and just like you also said, give them some characterization, and it could be anything you want. Like that's one of the best things about it.
Exactly. And in the new series that I've been doing, I've kind of been exploring, like I said, that whole idea. He can be whatever he wants to be. He can be whoever he wants to be. He can do whatever he wants without really no repercussions for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But while you're talking TFA, go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy.
Well, first off, I just want to apologize. I was talking to Anthony behind the scenes. I don't know if you guys are aware of these, but I suffer migraines and cluster headaches and migraines. They're not fun. They're like monthly, so sorry for being late. But hello, everyone. Ball Weep, Grog Now Weep, Ninny Bong. I'm TFA 1024, the TF Addict. I am basically your avid Transformers content creator. I go from stop motions to reviews when I feel like it to constant updates. I don't do much recently. A lot's been happening behind the scenes, but I'm here. I'm just trying to get back on my tracks sooner or later. It's great to be here. It's a pleasure to also meet you personally, Ultra Marcus, and you too, Cardboard Box. Big fans. Big fan.
Oh,
Well, we're a fan of you.
yes.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
We're
but
all equal
TFA
here.
1024, you're not a fan of me? What?
Hey, you and I
Now
are
you're
always
canceled.
good. Same with Lazy, same with Endpoint. I'm fans with anyone.
Yeah,
So,
but
I saw you guys play
just
that
a-
old relic of mine, Rising Warfare. Can you believe that stop motion's still getting comments?
Yes.
yeah.
I still get comments on my 10-year-old videos. Well, not
That's the
wild,
thing. That's the whole thing about having good stories and stuff like that to tell, and good voice actors and performances, is that those will continue to keep getting people trickling in because they're part of a related video, or they're looking at, okay, cool, like I want to see this character because we haven't seen this in a long time, or this one hasn't been re-released, or even a character gets re-released, right? And now everybody's looking to go find content that hasn't been created with the new release of that figure, right? That they're going to look at stop motion animation using, like, say, for example, like the Titans Return Headmasters and stuff. There's not a lot of people using the retro Headmasters, but there's a lot out there using the Titans Returns versions. And so people are watching those animations to figure out, hey, who's this character that I bought in the store for $20?
Right.
So that also tells the longevity of those stories too.
So the next topic is, everyone explain your animation process. Like, what do you do when you animate? How do you animate? Do you guys have rigs? If you do, did you make them? Did you buy them? If you bought them, where'd you buy them from? how do you animate? How do you hide your stands if you don't use a rig? If you use a stand.
I start my process on paper. Every time I have an idea, I start on paper first, and I kind of give a little storyboard for myself, and I think in terms of objects and movements and cameras and that sort of thing. So like all my projects start like this. I just write down who I'm going to do, and then I start doing some like what's the thumbnail going to look like, or what are some action sequence going to look like. And so I kind of just want to plan it out just ever so slightly at first, and just, typical storyboard fashion.
That's really nice because you've got an eternal memento now. You've got this, piece of like, like when the lyrics for a Beatles song go up at auction for tens of thousands of dollars. That's what that potentially. No, but it's great to you can look back on that in years' time and like a script of a movie.
And I can see everything that I've cut too, right? So
when you hit 100,000 subscribers, you can rip those pages out and make gold.
Sell them. Yeah, sell them. You can't make money from digital art. You can make money from original art, right? But yeah, so when I actually start shooting, I just have a big table. It used to be just like a small table. Now I kind of took we renovated our kitchen, so I took the old countertop and I built kind of this a tall table for me. I'm a tall guy, and put some cardboard backing there, and and so I use that as my studio, and I got some lights set up. I'll just try to tip this up so you can see. I just took some like curtain rod things. This is not a great setup, but I just pinned some lights on it to try to get rid of some shadows.
And your table looks identical to mine.
Yeah, it's not a great one, and I'm not a very good carpenter.
Well, neither am I.
A lot of money because the price of wood during COVID went up crazy. So this room used to have a bed in here and stuff like that, but it's just got in the way of walking around and animating. So I just like got rid of the bed, just have space to work, and I don't use any rigging. What I use is sticky tack a lot, so I'm pretty meticulous with it. Try to hide it in all the shots if I can. But I'm not using wires or anything like that. I should, but once you get into using wires, you got to get into touching up the photos afterwards, and that's a lot of work. I know Lazy does a lot of that. It's easier if you have a green screen, and then you can, my wife got me a green screen one Christmas. I haven't used it yet though, but I'm really appreciative that she got it though. But it's just really, really tedious work, and just I got the camera on a tripod. I haven't used a phone to do animation. I always use a DSLR. The camera I use is 14 years old. It's still going strong. It's got like tens of thousands of actuations on it. The tripod is falling apart, and I've taped it together and screwed it together and super glued it together, and it just keeps on going.
Just buy a tripod.
I have to ask: is your camera a plastic shutter or a metal shutter?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. It's a Nikon D80.
All right. I'm curious. I'm gonna look it up. I'm curious. Nikon D80.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Who screamed just just buy a tripod in your video?
June 15.
All right. Okay.
He's in my Discord, and which just whenever we're in voice chats, he was just screaming, and it always got us cracking up. So it's just like I would be honored if you would just yell, "Buy a tripod" into a microphone. Could you do that for me? He's, yeah, sure.
That's great.
All right, Chris, the same question.
Yeah, so kind of the same kind of process is that I use. I also do storyboards as well, and it's kind of been really. Here's kind of a part of it for like the trailer, but it's extremely inventive. It seems so simple, right? But it's extremely not inventive. That's not the word I'm looking for.
Put that on blast.
Very essential for setting up shots. Like, if you want like a Prime and an Alita 1 kind of look, the art's terrible. This isn't like I made this for really other people to see, but like Ultra Magnus, he looks very action mastery. Right.
I'm surprised how much detail you threw into these storyboards when you know
Yeah.
exactly what you're doing.
That's really
That's
good.
a great crime.
I also appreciate
really?
that the Autobot symbol looks like my face.
It does.
A little bit. Yeah, he's kind of winking there.
Getting close there, Crimson. Gonna be owing Lazy some royalties.
but you know, like, this was kind of like, okay, how am I going to frame this shot up to like the character itself?
Yeah.
You know, and that's essential to show. Okay, am I going to show his feet, his legs, his arm? You know, how much of him is going to be in the frame? And what I also, if you notice little notes here, I put Cybertronian gray, and I put Arc orange, and so like eventually there'll be one that says purple nemesis. So I'll kind of put in like how I want one shot to go to the other is the colors, kind of making sure that that's kind of consistent from there as well. Like, I'm not saying everything's gray, everything's orange, everything's purple, like kind of alternating as I'm going through them. So like there's Wheeljack at his little lab. I had a totally different setup, went with something different and a practical. But this was something I had a little bit of an idea with having him turn around. And it's just, these are just like little simple, just little storyboard things. Like, I have here like Soundwave, like even something simple like having, you know, Soundwave, and then okay, he's going to press eject, but what's going to happen when he presses eject? What has to move?
Dude,
So
you can
obviously,
really
the left
draw.
hand-
You can really draw. Like,
No,
wow.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, guys. But you know, like that's, and this is from looking at the figures too, a little bit too, trying to get that shape in. So this helps you frame up the shot. Now you may actually not even end up using, you know, how this works. Like here's Scrapper. So I didn't really like kind of what I had set up for it. So I went with something different with Scrapper, which you'll see that in the trailer that's launching tomorrow, 10 a.m. Central. But I went with something a little bit different with the Scrapper camera and everything. But yeah, it's just kind of little things like that. And this is just, you can look these up. I don't know if they're just called storyboard templates or something, but I wanted this because this worked on a sheet of paper. There's some that have 8. I think that's way too many for kind of how this works. So I really went with 6. It just kind of worked. I could say the scene, what is it? You know, a little description. That helps out a lot. This is extremely useful. I just think that it's something that's almost like it's slowly becoming a lost art. Sticky tack, you know, that's a big deal. Whether it's blue or white, whatever you got there, that's super important to have. Like this sticky tack, I've not even gone down like all these others. Like this is just the most amount I've used. Some I've had to throw away because if it falls on a carpet and there's little hairs in it, just throw it away. You'll never get those hairs out.
No, I use those ones. I use sticky tack with hair in it.
I just eat it.
Yeah, Mister. I get sticky tack all in my sand.
Do you guys know where potentially to find sticky tack that's black? Because all I've seen is white and blue.
Amazon, maybe?
Blue is
like
the
this
color
one,
over
like-
here as well.
This says $2.99 on it, but honestly, these you can get them from the dollar store. The black kind, I think, you could. I mean, I would almost try like a Staples or something like that.
Yeah, they might.
Amazon.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
also
yeah,
a
there's-
thing.
I tried looking.
Yeah,
for
but
it,
there's a
couldn't find
huge
it.
market that would probably buy up everything that's there on the Amazon too. But yeah.
I've had to be really careful about what sticky tack I use because some of it leaves an oily residue, and then
Yeah.
and then on my backgrounds are cardboard, and that residue just looks awful if it's left behind. So
So if you
That's a really smart idea that H&E just said, getting the spoiler packs using the little black Play-Doh.
Well, here's a tip. This is what I did for Tiki Tack. We have a teacher store, like a teacher supply store, and I mean, I don't think anybody here knows anything about Tiki Tack, right? Except for it's sticky. You know, we use it in stop motion stuff. But like, so I went in and I said, I don't want no oily residue, nothing that leaves oily residue behind, nothing like that. And the chick behind the counter was like, "Oh, this is what you want." And I bought like 4, I guess, packages of it at $2 each. So I've got a drawer full of that non-oily residue. So if you guys, basically, long story short, if you have a teacher supply store, just go
They'll
there.
know, eh?
Yeah, because it's all teacher items. It's pencils, rulers, classroom setup stuff, like the giant letters for the walls and the ribbons that go around the classroom and chalkboards and all kinds of stuff there. So
Good to know.
Yeah, other stuff that's important is like stands. You can use that to carry like stuff that you'll have maybe off screen, but also you can use it if you want to set up like maybe like a laser pointer or something. If you're trying to set up like a laser gun or anything like that. Mine, unfortunately, my laser pointers have buttons on them, but you can just put tape around that and just have it just set down the entire time. But laser pointers are important. That's really kind of cool. Something practical. Stands, I do edit them out in animation. Some of them, some of my animations, you'll notice where I was just strapped for time and ended up not being able to edit them out. So the stand and my hand is there in a couple of them, but they're there forever. So that's no big deal. But these come in really handy. I think a helping hands works better because they're metal. But these are Tamashii Stage Act 4. There's also ones that are these are for humanoid. They're ones for robots that are Stage Act 5. You can get those. And yeah, you can kind of combine them all together as well. For some reason, I don't know where my other 3 are. But
I had the NECA stand that I bought at Target, and then, yeah, those just don't cut it.
Yeah, the NECA stands are kind of... they're very thin compared to kind of the bulk that these have. But you'll also be able to unscrew and screw these in so you can tighten and loosen them up as well. So that helps out a lot. I'll use little, like if I want to get like a camera shot and my character is like super short, then I'll stick them on a little spot like this while I have my anchor mount, which let's see if I can figure out how to show all of this on screen. So this is just like a little riser. I've never taken the little protective cover off because I know I'm going to be putting blue tack and stuff on it. So these are super cheap. Find those on Amazon. That's where I got those from. But yeah, so you put the little characters up there. But what will happen is I use this anchor mount, and this, because I have an L-shaped desk, so this actually fits into where the desk is at, and then you can screw this up and down. And then this has a ball joint that can go, like a ball joint does. But the issue that you'll run into is that it doesn't go way down, right? It's just kind of lateral this whole time. So there are tricks you can do that. You can do that to where you can set it the other way. So this is on top of your desk and this is below. And then you can come up with the camera with a little mount and kind of angle it so you can get that Power Rangers kind of looking from down and up at a small figure to make it look huge. So you can get that Power Rangers kind of show action. But I really, really like kind of how this whole setup is because I can go this way, I can go forward. This rotates as well on the little.
It looks like a great tool, yeah.
Yeah, so this is what I've used in every single stop motion I've done, whether it was just with the cam, because this used to be my old 480p camera used to just sit on here, and then I had this to kind of angle up and down and go all around. So, but that's it's not Anchor, it's Archon. Yeah, there we go, Archon. But there's a bunch of them out there that are like this. I wouldn't pay too much for these. But this is also the reason why I have this, not just because of the L shape, but because if I got a tripod, which I also have that too, because I bought a tripod, but if I have a tripod, then my legs will continue to hit that tripod, knocking my camera and everything else shaking. So this helps with being able to have this under the table, but then I'm not being able to hit it, knocking it out.
Yeah, I'm actually considering doing something similar with what you're... For the same reasons, because my legs keep hitting the tripod, ruins the whole shot.
Now the other thing is, this isn't the only tripod I have. I actually have 3. No, 4 actually. But the other thing is, there's this thing called a snake or a selfie snake. And the hashtag not sponsored, but this thing is freaking awesome. My phones are heavy, right? Like the bigger we get, the more phones, or the bigger they are, the heavier they are, right? So this selfie snake has come into handy not just for holding phones, but for also holding up, like when I have gels for photography. And gels, basically just what that is, I don't know if people remember that old transparencies from back in the day.
Yep.
But they're just all different colors. And they're super cheap on Amazon, but like you can make a shot look, totally different. Like we'll say in this example, we'll boost these lights up, right? And we want it to kind of look kind of like they're in like a Decepticon look. So then it might not work because I have a bunch of other lights on as well.
Did you make your own Trailbreaker?
Yes, I did make my own Siege Trailbreaker.
That looks great.
Cybertron Trailbreaker.
Yeah.
That looks awesome.
I want one.
Yeah, if you want it to look more Cybertronian, you can just kind of get more. It might not come off as well because, yeah, it probably won't. Oh, I know why. Let me turn this ring light off here. There, so it kind of gets. There's your regular light. There's your Cybertronian look to it. And of course, it's changing your exposure and everything like that. So those gels come in really handy. But the problem is, and I don't. I do have an example. Problem is the lights that I use are a ton of LEDs are on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is the LEDs normally don't get hot, but there are a lot of them. They can kind of mar and kind of warp this. So what I'll also use to snowfish when I'm not using the thing for a camera, then it's just holding my gels. So it's not leaning up against my lights getting burnt and stuff like that. So I'm sure there's a different way that could be done, but that's also kind of my cheat animation ways that I do when I have all of those. Clever. So
and if you're
oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say there's stage gels, which are what they use on in stage performances over their spotlights and stuff. So they're meant to take heat, and they're warp resistant. And so if you're worried about any kind of warpage or whatever, they can be a little on the expensive side, about $5-10 a gel. But how many times are you going to need to buy it?
That's true. Like the set I got had like 20 gels in it. For about roughly that amount of price, and there was 2 of each of them in there. So it suited my purpose, but I also didn't want to spend a lot of money in it because I didn't know they would melt. So had I known that information, I might have gotten a different set of gel. The other thing I do with my animations is I like having backgrounds. Now this background you see here, I do have a lot of toy hack stickers, but I don't normally toy hacks sticker up my figures, but I love their toy stages. And they are expensive on the website, but they are 100% worth it. I mean, you got a whole Cybertronian landscape right here, and then you can just flip that up, boom, you're in Shockwave's lab. So, and then you got the heavy metal war where they're putting all their their chip rectifiers into.
Yeah, the power chip rectifiers.
About it. Yeah, power chip
rectifiers. Or you can be like Lazy Eyebrow and build your own background with drywall and plaster and everything else.
Oh, that too. Yeah. No. And then you can take the background away, and then I'll have my mechanical chain base ones, which this is from my Gundam backgrounds and stuff for space docks. Let me bring that light over here.
I gotta look into getting some of that, or at least
I didn't know you were into Gundam.
Yeah, these are really. They used to be really hard to find. I lucked out. They were KO'd like crazy. They're made by Kotobukiya, and totally worth it. It's spelled just like it sounds, Kotobukiya. And this is really has been very helpful, and just a plain. You don't need to have something super specific to Cybertron or something super specific to Gundam. It just works, and that kind of having. See, I don't use a lot of green screen. I guess I should probably say that. I don't use a lot of green screen, mainly because I don't really have the technology or the software to do that, because I'm limited by that. But it's also because I like the practical. I like having the shadows cast where I want shadows cast. I like having that, where I can frame a character in, right? Like, so if Shockwave's going down like an alleyway, the alleyway is actually there. And because most of the time, like, you're going to not have these giant, massive, total Autobot City battles, right? And that'd be cool to have it in every animation you do, but it's just not a practical thing. It's not a storytelling thing that you would do every time.
I've
and
noticed
also
that lazy.
All right.
I've noticed that Lazy Eyebrow has a very neutral background, and there's no sort of decoration there or anything else. Is that by intent on your part, Lazy Eyebrow?
See, I used to go with the white backgrounds, but I found it kind of washed out everything else, so I switched to the gray, and now it's just a black. But I got it so overexposed that it's just kind of looking like a charcoal versus black. As for the rest of my setup, I actually am very much not like you guys. I'm surprised how methodical you guys are before you film. Like, honestly, I do everything on the fly. The only thing I don't do is, in terms of that, is like when I do my scripts that are very narrative heavy, I will write it out specifically so I can ship it out to the people that voice act so that they can know what they're doing and have time to do it, because some of them are busy and can't get it to me for like 3 weeks. So it's like
what I like about your charcoal, environment is that it's kind of depthless and it's almost sort of ethereal and limbo-like. I can't quite tell how much space there is or isn't, and it kind of plays tricks with the eyes, and it's a great space to work in. Actually, I think you really work it.
That's also how I've lit it too. Like it's all it is. I can't remember the exact material. It's a very thin sheet of plastic. It is 60 inches wide and it's 8 feet long. And I bought it off a guy from the States. It was like $50, and spray painted it that black charcoal. It's actually a matte black for camouflage that I just went with a whole thing, and it slots into the table, and then it goes, and then it curves up at I think it's a 3-inch radius, and then it goes there, and then all my lights are around the thing, so it lights it evenly from all sides, so you really can't tell where it all is. And then because of the way, like I built this table with Titan class in mind, so because of that, I've got a lot of space to work within it, and I've installed a rail system that I mentioned briefly in one of my tutorials, just how I have the rig all set up, and it's like this rail system that's got X, Y, Z axis control. It's been really handy since I made that, and I wish I had have made something sooner, because
I enjoyed that episode of your tutorial, actually, and that's personally come in handy for me. The tutorial, when I switched over to War for Cybertron figures, I was like, oh dear, now I have to make these things walk. Hang on. Lazy covered that, and before on my first viewing, I was watching it for pleasure and entertainment, and then I had to go back to it and really absorb it and spend a couple of days on walk cycles. So
once you get it down, it's actually a fun little. It can be fun to make a walk cycle. Like,
I agree. Yeah,
once you get your keyframes down, it's not that difficult.
It's time consuming for sure, but until I saw your tutorial, Lazy, I didn't think that it could be done, as effectively as you did, to be honest. And I was like, man, that freaking worked. Like, so most of the time I cheat, I kind of shoot waist up, right? And then the only time you see legs are when they transform.
Well, I've even gotten away with that before. Yeah. It's like, sorry, Empa, didn't mean to.
No. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's like on my 5th video, I had to make Optimus run away, and so like camera tricks, I put the trailer there, and then had him behind the trailer running away, and so all you see is the arms pumping and moving away, and it looks like G1 Prime is like fully animated running. It's interesting what you can get away with on camera.
Cheating.
Yeah. And quick tip for anybody out there watching this in the future, and you made it this far. The only thing that matters is what the camera sees.
Yeah.
So if you have a camera like a DSLR and you're looking through, I guess, not the viewfinder, but you're watching on the screen itself, the only thing that matters is what that screen sees. So keep that in mind.
Well, one thing I didn't even cover in that flying tutorial, now that you've mentioned it, is before I had a rig, a lot of my flying was like, you'd see a helicopter on screen and it was like let's say Thomas is this helicopter, you'd see. Shut up.
Why not?
That's the first thing I had in mind. Anyways, it's like you'd see this much on camera, and it's like my hand would be like just off screen holding it, like, oh, it's coming down for a landing type thing.
He's a very useful helicopter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thomas the thermonuclear bomb. You know, like he's many things.
And on that note, TFA, go ahead. Do you have same question for you, man?
I mean, for me, it's also kind of very different. Well, some of you guys, well, I'm pretty sure a majority of you guys have sets. I just kind of go the old stop motion animator route and just kind of record around my house. Similar to how my inspiration, Night/Slash 2020, now known as TFX Productions, used to do his thing. So I kind of just pick an area, maybe get some Transformers boxes, make like little cities or sets and whatnot, and then, you know, just kind of go to town. In terms of rigs, the only one that I actually have made is this little beauty right here. Let me see if I can just... Uh-oh. Wait, I don't think I can switch on mobile, can I?
We see ya.
I don't want to be seen. I'm trying to switch.
Oh,
Whatever,
quick, we see you. Run.
There you go.
But like
You got to go letterbox.
this was just an idea that spawned in my head. It's a little mobile rig, so if I have a chase scene or something in mind, or the Autobots are rolling out, Decepticons rising up and everything, I could just put my phone in this little slot here in like landscape mode, and then just follow it around. Like I said, it's something I made like just randomly because I remember my buddy Caleb, when he was living up here, I forget what his name is for his channel. I think it was the Night Gamer. But him and I just had the idea. It's like, you know, let's just mess with some Legos and let's see what we can create. I made that, and I made like a little Decepticon gunship. So I got pretty creative with it. So, and this is actually, if you watch, I think it's Infinite Chaos episode 5, Order and Chaos, or Chaos and Order. I forget what episode it's named. There's a scene where Swindle, Fall of Cybertron Swindle, it'll make more sense whenever you watch Infinite Chaos, but please don't, because I'm going to be remastering it someday. There's a scene where Swindle kind of like jumps over the camera and then drives and kills a couple of humans, and I use that rig to follow him with it. So it was a pretty fun process. Of course, I also have tripods and everything. I have another little thing here that I also use, and this came with like a little 3-pack of like iPhone accessories, iPod accessories, just a little stand. Sometimes I use this for my camera, or I'll use it to kind of set a background up. I don't know how well it's coming across on camera. Let me see. There you go.
That's neat.
Oh, just a little V stand, basically. But it works.
Oh, cool.
Don't mind
So what is that made out of, TFA 1024?
It's literally, you can just call me TFA. It's just made out of like plastic, I assume. Like very like not super flexible or anything. Like just plastic, and then there are 2 little rubber. I don't know, what would you call these things? Rubber grips. I think they're grips, but they also slip off, which is kind of a pain. But yeah, I mean, I also use green screen. I'm not great at it. I still have the issue of the figure in the forefront or the focus gets like the green afterline or like a outline. So it's kind of annoying, but I've been practicing with that, and I've actually been getting semi good at it. I've actually been doing photo edits recently, and on Instagram, that's instagram.com/TFA1024. You can check out a couple that I made using my most recent acquisition from the seller who hooked up MGO with his Rodimus a little early, for good reason. It was just in retail. It was in Australia. It's not stolen. I did the inside of Unicron with him, you know, becoming Rodimus Prime. So I thought I was really proud of that. And then for the 10th anniversary of Dark of the Moon, I did my boy Dino / Mirage, but we all know his name now is Dino. So, but yeah, and it's also, and something that I hear a lot of people not really discuss when it comes to stop motion. Same with video editing and creating in general. It all depends on emotion that day. For me, I've been wanting to put out Treason a Tarn story for so long because Treason is my boy. I love that guy. He's messed up, and he's a really cool character, and I wish that he gets some like modern day love along with the DJD. But then I remember, oh yeah, Hasbro's not going to market a torture chair transformer or a living crematorium or a personal like grinder and whatnot.
You say that, but they showed an image of him in Cyberverse, which I thought was very unusual. So
yeah, but that was more just played off as like perfect Decepticon, and then also it's literally Tarn. He's just a tank. The rest of the DJD is going to be a problem. You have someone who turns into an electric chair. I'm pretty sure that's not gonna fly well through Hasbro's marketing team.
Well, also, Marcus, could
it be a submarine chair? Could that get away from it? I think a submarine chair might work. If we can get away with
hey, it worked with 6-shot.
Yeah, if we can get away from a gun and call it a submarine, just turn it upside down, then I think we can do that for electric chair, right? Ooh, a massage parlor chair. That's what it would be. That's much better, right?
Well, let's get away from massage parlor chairs and get into Ultra Marcus's process, and especially like how he uses real objects in his sets.
Yeah,
I shall be brief so we can move on. I have a sheet of wood. Is that the right word for wood? It's wood chip, and it's maybe 1.5 meters by 1 meter. And I set up on that. I put that on the floor. I have it raised on a pile of VHSs. I just take some VHSs off the shelf and I raise it just a few inches. And I go out into the garden. I go down the beach. I get stones and rocks, and I get soil. It's really not very glamorous at all. I go and I buy sand, or I'll go down the beach and steal sand. Can you steal sand? Yeah, I think it belongs to the Queen over here. I steal sand, and I'm interested in sort of getting those different real textures on camera for I'm currently working on a sand planet. What else? Twigs off the neighbor's tree encroaches into my land, so I'm like, right, I'm having some twigs off that. And for interiors, spaceships and bases, I go on eBay and you can pick up a stack of 3 old VCR players for $10. And when they turn up, I unscrew them. I turn them on the side, light them nicely, and they form my backgrounds for my spaceships and my. And
they're beautiful.
So that's
very nice settings you make.
Very briefly again, I promise, but where I got the idea from was like one of my favorite films is Alien, and the director of that said that for the corridors of the spaceship, especially down in the engine room, he went to a local Air Force base and they were getting rid of a load of planes, jets, and he said, "Oh, can I take these and rip parts out of them for my film?" And they said yes. So the corridors are lined with jet engines, all perfect symmetry, all going down, and they all look real because they had utility in the real world, and now they look like they have utility in this film, and that's kind of what I was going for. That's with brilliant. Computer parts. And
really smart.
I love that.
Yeah. James Cameron does some really awesome effects.
Yeah, and they light well. The light bounces off them. They have depth, and that's pretty much my. That's pretty much sand theft or unauthorized or illegal sand mining. Widely unknown global example of natural. I can't quite read that. But it's there, folks. It's a thing. Do not remove sand.
Okay. I'm going to be honest. I don't know why we had to learn that, but okay.
Now.
There's my set.
I'd say for me, I use hard sets for my season 5. When I mean by hard sets, I mean like actually built sets, about 90% of the time. And then for the non G1 season 5 stories, I use real flooring that I've made out of either like foam tiles or cardboard or something like that, and then a green screen. I don't have the hugest setup, right? So I'm very reliant on a green screen. I don't have a whole lot of space. to store sets or anything like that. So yeah, so the green screen when I'm doing like Deep Cover, a lot of the story is told through green screen. But what I do is I'll take when I'm in Premiere, I will pay attention to. I won't put just like a generic, say like like gray metal background. I'll take like tiles, like actual like say pictures of bathroom tiles or something, and I'll get very distinctive looking ones. And so I'll place a certain tile. Say like in the last episode, Rodimus is talking to Huffer. I put a square that is extremely close to Rodimus as a reference to where Rodimus would be in the room, and then that square is even is further away from Huffer,
right?
So you can kind of get an idea of how big the room is.
No, reference points are a fantastic idea if you're
They're gonna kiss.
key in things.
Sorry.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off.
I knew it. I knew
This
I
is
knew
Huffer, and this is Rodimus. They're married.
But yeah, I agree. Like reference points, and then a lot of the stuff that my figures interact with, I should say my puppets interact with, because that's the actual term. Whatever you're doing as a stop motion, whatever you're animating is called a puppet, whether it's a toy, an actual puppet, or anything. So, so everything that my puppets interact with are physical items, whether it's a 3D printed coffee mug, a knife, a speaker, a barrel, whatever. They're always interacting with that stuff. And quick tip, always look at like the dollar section of your Walmart, your Target, your dollar store, whatever the case may be, because you can find some really cool LED lights. You guys can find like ice cream cones, like that are actual erasers, for elementary school kids or something like that. And they can actually be in scale with certain figures, certain Transformers or Marvel Legends or whatever. You pick and choose. So don't be afraid to, experiment and kind of open your mind when you see something like in the dollar section or whatever.
So I'll just print something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know you've got a 3D printer. I have a 3D printer. Just for people who don't have one.
Yeah. No, I get the advice. I'm just saying. Print stuff for that. It's like if you got a printer, you oh man, your props are world's your oyster.
Absolutely. Especially if you got like a small printer and you can just kind of tuck it away in the garage or something.
Yeah,
it's not taking up a lot of space.
It'd be great if you could melt down, like Earthrise RC into something useful and print something from that.
For
but
real,
it doesn't work that way.
Everyone's hard on RC. Poor RC.
So the final question that I have for everyone
her fault
here,
she's a shell former. Go ahead.
The final question that I have for you guys here: frame rates and why. So, what frame rate do you film at, and why do you film at whatever it is you film at?
I'm going to be very brief and say, I don't know exactly what film rate I'm going to be using.
Andy,
I adjust the animation speed in Premiere after I shoot it. Usually it comes out to be sometimes it's minimum like 12 frames per second. Most of the stuff I'm doing now is around 15 frames per second. But sometimes it goes up to 18. I don't usually go beyond that. But you can get a lot done in low frame rates too. I would encourage people to like just make something, try it out, and don't get caught up in trying to make it look perfect or have like the highest frame rate. Not every movement needs to be at a high frame rate. It can be quite low if it needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And kind of adding on to that is you don't need to have movement for every single body part on a figure either in every single scene. I think sometimes people confuse that as like, oh, well, it's stop motion animation. It has to always be moving. No, sometimes characters can just kind of be standing there talking to each other, but then they got to go somewhere. And then that's when they're moving. Unless you're adding in like mouth movements, things like that, like, you can have that interaction and get that suspension of disbelief from your audience because they know that this is going to move. They know that this character is talking. The voices are different. The performances are coming through as different characters. And so they're going to know that this is supposed to be like a living character. But I think that's where a lot of animators, even starting out, get overwhelmed, is that they're like, I have to animate every single thing. Everything's got to be at 30 frames per second. No, everything does not need to be at 30 frames per second. You're not making the movie Chicken Run. You're not working with claymation. You will burn yourself out so quickly from it. It's not even funny.
As a fun fact, Chicken Run was computer animated.
Do you say what?
I said, as a fun fact, Chicken Run wasn't even animated; it was computer generated.
Right. So you get stuff with like, you get stuff where like people are looking toward like the professional side of it, right? And they're just like, okay, well, this is what I should be doing. But it also depends on what your scene is. So like for my example, sometimes 15 frames per second works, and 20 doesn't. Sometimes 25 works, and 10 definitely won't work for whatever you're trying to promote. I'll say there are a lot of ways where you can cheat animation. I try to do that as often as I can, because it's just for time constraints, but also because sometimes I've run into issues where and Input mentioned this too. Whatever's in that viewfinder is what you're actually going to see. I've animated characters off screen, I don't know how many freaking times, and I was just like, why did I do that? What a complete waste of time. And I hate wasting time. So I'll stay in that kind of like, kind of 20 to 15, I think, maybe 25 from time to time. But rarely do I get to the 30 frames per second. Maybe if I really cared about that character, like Ultra Magnus, I might go to 30 and spend that extra time getting those pictures, but those are few and far between.
All right, Lazy, what do you film at?
Okay, so I was doing 12 in 2015. I tried upping to 15, and then I was doing that for about a year. And then when I started redoing all the G1 scenes, like for instance, I started with the bumpers, and then I moved to that intro. And it was there that I discovered that the G1 cartoon was animating on the 2s, meaning they were running at 12 frames per second. So if they can run at 12 frames a second and no one cares, why would anyone care if I'm doing 12 frames a second? Yeah. And so I went back to 12 frames a second and kind of enjoyed it. A bit like what Cardboard said, though, is there are some times where I'll film something. Like, as an example, the Grimlock video, a lot of the things I had in mind 12 frames a second, and then when I replayed it, it was kind of really slow, so I upped it to 24, and it looks buttery smooth, and that's great, but don't feel you need to get there, because 12 looks adequate. Yes, 24 will look fantastic, and it often does if you get it right, but it's like, if you're just starting out, it's like saying, I have to clear the world record. You don't have to. You don't have to be doing Olympic sports stuff if you're just starting out in Olympic, like, I don't know, pole vaulting, for instance. You don't need to set Olympic records. And you start small and you work yourself up. Like, there's no need to kill yourself doing 24 if you're just starting out.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I do want to piggyback on what you're saying about 12 frames, trying not to burn yourself out. I have recreated scenes frame by frame. Rio of the Wildfire from Ronin Warriors, his transformation was done frame by frame. Now, I did miss 10 frames of a black screen. I did forget to put that in there, but it is a shot-for-shot recreation or frame-by-frame recreation. I have recreated, scenes from the animated movie frame by frame. And what I'm doing when I do this is I have it up on my PlayStation 3 on the flat screen in the office, and I am literally pressing the movie is paused, and I'm literally pressing R2 to go frame by frame to move each figure or each puppet that I'm messing with.
That's a great way to learn. Yeah.
It's very time consuming, but the one thing that you realize is that even at 24 frames a second, 30 frames a second, even if you do say like Akira, the Fable myth is like that entire movie is animated at 30 frames a second. It's not. But the one takeaway is that they cheat frames. They will throw 5 frames of the same picture out there and then do this giant, huge movement and then it tricks your brain into filling in the gaps, because every movement after that giant movement is very subtle movements until it gets to a 3-frame repeat, and then it's a giant movement again. So
I don't mean to cut you off, but like,
no.
Even to add to that, it's like one of the big arguments that I was talking to someone about was that the Aardman stuff is 24 frames, and look how buttery smooth that is. I went back, I had Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and I went frame by frame, and yes, there were some elements that were 24 frames, like they had the bunnies they were sucking out of the ground, that opening scene, right? The rabbits are filmed at 24 frames, but the humans are filmed at 12, and it's like for every frame you see a bunny move, and every other frame you see a human move, so it's like even the professionals aren't going 24 frames on everything.
Right, absolutely. So I say, so just keep that in mind when you guys are starting out, right? Like they're even the professionals, I don't want to say they're limits, you know, there's limits to what they're doing.
But
But
there's budget limitations too.
yeah,
We get that, but
right. No, absolutely. So it's just piggybacking on what you're saying, you know. TFA, do you know what your frame rate is?
Well, when I very first started out, thanks to a couple of good friends of mine back in the day, they recommended I start out with 10. Since then, I've experimented with 15, 20, 24, and even 30. So I'm still relatively within the 15 to 24 frames per rate range, and I'm pretty comfortable right there, actually, because the best thing I like about it is it still looks semi-smooth. Like, it's not going to be anything near, like, MP Cons worthy or Lazy or Ultramarcus and Cardboard Bots, obviously, or anyone who's very well known with stop motion. Because I'm still technically an amateur. Like, I don't do it often enough as much as I want to, because one, space constraint for me, because I have what I like to dub the infamous hallway that I always go into and film, because it's the only wide area I have at the time to really go in there. And I don't know, something, I feel like I don't have to do anything higher. And another thing that everyone mentioned so far is, like, with the movements, I've started also experimenting with that, because I thought if you don't have everything at the same consistent speed rate, it's going to look weird. Guess I'm, pleasantly surprised, because I thought that's how you're supposed to do things. But no, it's actually very beneficial, and it makes me feel a little bit better, because there are times where I looked at my stop motion and I'm like, okay, then maybe this could have been done a little better. The one thing I do know, and the fun part I love about it, is the transformations, for sure. Those are a lot of fun for me to film, because it's really cool seeing that just kind of come together on its own.
I don't mean to keep piggybacking on this, but like, I got so much to say on this topic. Well, even take old video games, for instance. I know. Stop, Paul.
Well, how old are we talking exactly?
I don't know.
I'm a Nintendo 64. That's
No. Like the old NES games. Like they're keyframes. I kind of covered this in my tutorial, where it's like they had 3 frames on a cycle. They had 2 frames, some of them, on a cycle, where it was just they would do that and they played it fast enough. It's like frame rate doesn't necessarily matter so long as it's A, consistent, and B, like the poses are strong enough that you convey all the information you need to in as few frames as possible.
Yeah, like I said, your brain will fill in the gaps.
Yeah. So long as it's consistent, it's good.
Yeah. Ultramarcus, what's your frame rate?
I'm not too sure if that sounds a bit unprofessional. I'm sorry. I take, like Cardboard, I take the pictures, I load them into the software, which is Sony Vegas, which I'm told is very passé. No one uses that anymore, apparently. So I put the photos in there.
Well, maybe you're bringing it back.
Yeah, right. I render that down to a video, and then I usually will squeeze that video or stretch it, and there's enough pictures there for it to survive that squeezing or that stretching to that speed I want that walk to be, or the speed I want that car to go across the screen, and that's pretty much how I roll in and that's pretty much all I know about frame rates. But I was very intrigued by your video, Lazy, or rather the video that you recommended. I forget now what it was called, where he covered the Mario 2. Yeah, the Mario 2. Only 2. Only 2 poses for the Mario 2 when he's running.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yeah. No, it's because they had limitations in terms of space they could use. So it's like the fact that they're able to get those consistent walk frames from such limited space is phenomenal, and it really is fantastic to look back on and use it for our stop motion in terms of experience and whatnot. Out of curiosity, it's kind of like a rephrasing the question. Do you know what frame rate you export in, both Cardboard and Marcus?
Yes, 29.
I've been
when I select, I mix it down at 29. That's what I do. It sounds a bit. Is that big? Is that too much?
29.97, or 29 flat.
Yeah.
29.97.
So you're going with the TV rate.
It's interesting. And
Yes.
so from there, you're just whatever it is in your timeline. That's what it is.
Yeah. And as I say, it will survive and bear a certain amount of stretching or compressing in the file, and so I can speed. If that car's going across the screen a little bit too slowly, I just squeeze it and it moves a little bit faster. I might be doing things arse backwards. Oh, sorry.
Potentially.
It's late. but
was it supposed to be family friendly?
it's late everywhere now, isn't it? No, it's not. But,
It's almost 9 here.
I had meant to look in, and I probably should, to the more technical side of things, but it's the same with everything I get into. I taught myself musical instruments. I can't read music. I don't know anything about the technical side of it. And I might be making my life easier in that discipline if I did, but I know what I like and I like what I know.
Yeah, it might change kind of your own style too. Like, especially if you've watched and seen what others have done and you've created your own style off of that without getting so knee deep into everything technical or all the different terms or everything like that, right? Like, because Ultra Marcus and I, and I had a conversation, we both kind of do our animation similarly, is that we really have no real way of figuring out our frames per second unless we sat there and looked at each picture, because we're just taking as many as we think we need to and then making it work for the scene.
I also wouldn't feel super bad about not knowing your frame rate and then exporting at 29.97, because the G1 cartoon was broadcast 29.97 and it's 12 frames a second, and mathematically those don't line up. So when going through it, it's like 2 frames, like clicking over, it's 2 frames and then 3 frames and then 2 frames and then 3 frames, because that's what it had to do because of the number mismatch. That's all. So I wouldn't feel super bad about what you're doing. If it works, it works.
Yeah,
Absolutely. See, and I animate at 24 frames a second across the board because I use Dragon Frame, and it's because of the program. It's simpler to set to keep at whatever frame rate that you're set at. But I mentally
I set it to 12. I use Dragon Frame as well, and I just click 12. Me personally.
But mentally, what I do, like if I have some of those like pause frames, what I do is if I have something switch over to a new shot, I will duplicate that first picture by 6 frames. So there's a good, instead of 24 frames that second, there's a good maybe like a quarter of a second where your brain says, okay, this is a new scene. And then the movement starts, or then the conversation kind of starts.
In Dragon Frame, you can hold frame instead of taking the same picture 3 times, right?
Yeah, I know. That's what I do. I take the one picture and then I just drag it down.
No, I'm just trying to save your hard drive. But I mean, if you're doing that already, then I'm sorry for saying anything.
No, it's okay. Look. I will say this about Dragon Frame. Dragon Frame, their tutorials are very few and far between. So when you figure something out,
I know.
it's like you feel like you just mastered the entire program. Right?
Like how you were saying that you had to put the DVD on the second screen for your PS3. There's actually a feature in Dragon Frame where you can overlay it, and when you figure that out, it makes it so much easier.
Can you really? I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, you can. And it's because you can also use onion skinning. You can see the image and you can see it there, and it's ghosted over what you're filming, and you can just line it right up, and it's so much better than looking at 2 screens.
Oh my god, dude, you blew my mind. I'm not even gonna lie on that. I didn't even think you could do that.
It's a feature.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's I'm serious. That's freaking awesome.
So Crimson Raptors just wrote in the comments that Dragon Frame is $300.
Yeah.
Which it's a big pill. I haven't taken that pill yet. But I use a piece of software, I think it's called Phase 1 or Camera 1 or something like that.
Mhm.
And literally, I have a 30-day trial, and every 30 days, I clone my hard drive so I can keep using this program. I just keep.
And he's been doing
using
that
the
for 8
pages.
years.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know,
Wow.
keyboards exist, right?
Cheating the system.
And I'll say this about Dragon Frame. When I bought mine, it wasn't at $300. When I bought mine, it was at $450 for the actual program, for the disc, for the booklet,
Wow.
for the controller for it. And you had a choice between a Bluetooth controller or a wired controller, and that wired controller is like 30 feet long. So
Really? That's awesome.
yeah,
Huh.
it's crazy. But so I spent $450 on it. At $300, that's a really good deal. Especially if it's I think they're on 4.0 right now, right?
Yeah.
Or 4.3 or whatever. But the newest version is 4.
I can't remember where I got my I've had the software for 8 years, and I can't remember where I grabbed it from, but like I had none of the hardware to go with it. So if for those of you that are in the same situation, a Bluetooth keypad will work just as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And and as far as to even Dragon Frame, to build on that, it's not just a $300 program. You have the program, you have the camera, and not just, you don't have to buy a DSLR. It is compatible with certain cell phones, certain
Webcams too.
Yeah, certain webcams, certain like tablets. So if you do have something lying around your house that it's compatible with, you're good to go. But if you don't, then you are out the $20 to $700 to $1,000, whatever it is, for your camera choice, whatever you decide to use. But we'll also say hobbies are also expensive. Buying transformers can be expensive. Buying car parts can be expensive. Buying toys, computers, whatever can all be expensive. So if you're going to invest into it, just balls to the wall, because Dragon Frame is what professionals use. Dragon Frame is what movies are made with, and the fact the stuff that you can do in Dragon Frame that you can't do on like a $5 app on your phone. The time saving features that Dragon Frame has, that you don't have to continually go through and edit and drag pictures and Photoshop this or do that and all this stuff. The time saving features alone makes Dragon Frame worth the price of admission for it.
Especially if you're
someday I'll probably go there.
Yeah, you totally should. I can't recommend it enough.
Yeah,
I forgot to mention this beforehand, so may I just backtrack just real briefly, because you guys talked about your cameras and such, and I just realized I completely forgot to mention mine.
Oh, by all means.
So I'm not mostly like a lot of you guys, how you use like DSLR cameras and all that. I just literally use my iPhones and my iPads, mainly the iPad. It comes out a little bit better for some reason on the iPad. Of course, now I have an iPhone 12, so maybe I'll start using that more after I clean it out. But yeah, that's another thing when it comes to stop motion, is like, don't feel like you need to have like the latest and greatest technology or editing software or even like effects and everything. If you can make it work, as long as you get the vision in your head put out into something of like a corporeal form, just go at it.
I started my channel with a 144p webcam, so I mean, sky's the limit so long as it films.
Little USB one ball one, or like
like
wow.
something like that. It was like a Microsoft Life Cam or something stupid like that.
Oh god.
Yeah, you need to start somewhere,
old
and you realize it's not the
Absolutely.
right tool.
Yeah, and it's also stop motion studio is what I use, which is also a fantastic app, but I think is still updating to this day.
And I want to say this: if you guys are using anything like a stop motion app, I have to add this: get something that has onion skinning. For the love of God, put onion skinning in your life if you're going to be a stop motion animator.
I need that. I don't have that, and I suffer tremendously without it.
What?
Stop motion studio,
Yeah.
man.
How? Okay.
You can take
don't
all
use it either.
the pictures from my videos and make an entirely new video that makes sense, because I spend so much time lining things up.
That's what I mean. Like, I'm shocked because like your shots are so consistent.
Maybe
Some
he
of
has like a little like marker on his area for like where things are supposed to go, or like makes kind of like a mental placement.
Well, that works too. But I mean, like your Huffer and Armor High, when they slammed together and spun around and made whatever it was, like that movement was so well done. I'm surprised.
that stuff's easy. It's more like when you get a close up and you're moving an arm or something like that.
Yeah.
And if
I
something
gotcha.
slips, unscreening would be great to kind of put it back in the right position. So I just have it on a laptop and I look at it and I kind of like I'll hold my finger to the screen and say, where did I have that picture? But yeah, unscreening would be great if I had it. I would save so much time.
And you guys talk about tables and everything. I'm over here working on carpet.
I started off on carpet 100%.
I love carpet.
Yeah. I'm going to
I don't
start
know,
off
for
with
me,
the channel.
sometimes it's like with a walking cycle because of Lazy's tutorial that actually helped me want to try it. That's where it kind of gets tricky for me because it has to like balance on carpet, obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't I don't mind using sticky tack if I don't think I ever have, but like I don't mind
carpet.
that being a thing. Yeah, not on carpet, but like I don't know. I want it to look. Well, first off, I'm very like OCD about my figures. Like if there's even like one speck of sticky tack on a figure, it'll drive me crazy. So I can't even go that route if I wanted to.
So it sounds like you just need to get a stand or a rig or something to
Yeah.
help.
Right?
Right.
I have tripods, but oh, you mean for figures? Yeah, I want to get the one that Crimson has because I've seen those before, and those do really help out a lot. And like I said, I had the NECA stands, but those things are just way too tight to use. Like you try to pry that thing open, you feel like you're gonna break the damn thing.
Anyway, on to the next topic.
Yep. Yeah.
So I guess that was supposed to be the last topic, but I guess we can keep going. How do you guys usually how do you usually go upon recording your voiceovers? And do you guys hold casting calls? How do you guys get your VAs and whatnot?
Yeah, I use this little Yeti mic here to do my voice recording after the fact. And I do a poor job of it. I'm really bad at sound levels, and I got a lot to learn. But I listen to Ultra Marcus, and I'm thinking that guy must be like a sound recorder for his day job or something like that because it sounds tremendous.
I'm a civil servant. It's not glamorous at all. But I do have a background in terms of another hobby of, as I said, I play music. So anyone who plays the guitar sings. You don't have to be good. Bob Dylan wouldn't get past round one of America's Got Talent or whatever it's called. If you've got an instrument, you'll have a go at singing. So like I'm used to and comfortable with being in front of a microphone and how to work the sound, that kind of stuff. But this topic does sort of this is what surprised me most, I think, about when I started my channel, was that in parallel to the stop motion community, there is this voiceover community, which is just full of the most talented people. And, some of them are great impersonators, some of them are great character actors, and mixes of both. And some of them are really expert with the modulations and things like that. And they live for these voices, whether it's Transformers or whether it's also, Marvel and anything else. I never expect. I thought I would have to do all my own voices or rope in my real world friends and say, hey, you wouldn't fancy, doing some voiceover for me for a Transformer thing. I'd look nuts in asking people that. But yeah, it surprised me greatly to find that all this support and help was there. And I've made as many friends from that voice acting side as I have from the stop motion side. And my stuff would not be the same without it at all. I have some really talented people I've had the pleasure of working with, some of whom are on this panel today. So
still hope I can contribute one day.
It's yeah, sure, man. There's it's always a pleasure thinking who can do this voice. And just to wrap up, I've never held a casting call because that would require having to deliver the bad news of sorry, you haven't got the part.
Oh, man.
I'm
Oh, that's
terrible
the
at
worst
that.
So
part.
much that.
I'm
I
terrible.
hate that.
So I've been lucky enough to approach who I want, and they've said yes. I've been very lucky like that. So
Yes.
Yeah, kind of piggybacking on that too is casting calls. I see people hold those all the time, and I think that has a lot to do with they have just such a large audience of people that want to do voices for them that they can't really choose, right? My kind of process for it is I'm pretty much more of a headhunter. So I kind of look, I listen to how people talk, I listen to how they voice in other animators and stuff as well. And it's just kind of like, sometimes even if they're just a Transformers reviewer, right? They're not even in the animation world, but they have a voice for a character that I think would fit really well. A good example of that is, Patriot Prime Reviews. He had this contest where he was giving away a Generation Selects Roadbuster, and or not Generation Selects, I'm sorry, Generations Throwing 30 Roadbuster, while he was doing a G1 review on the Roadbuster itself. And I was thinking more and more about it, and listening to his voice, I was like, man, he would make a really good Roadbuster voice, because we've never had that in any animation whatsoever. And he said yes, and I'm so glad for him to have done that. And there's other characters too with like, for example, you'll have situations where there'll be a new character, right? And maybe there's been a version of it before, like, for example, Six Gun, but I never really liked the G1 version of it. And so, like, I asked Larkin's Lair if he'd like to voice, and I know people are busy, everybody has a real life. And it's not so much that, like, sometimes I'm afraid of hearing that no on the other end. When you're headhunting somebody, it's like, I don't want to hear that no, because I've almost kind of like, I've built you up in my own mind that I'm just
You've head cast them. In your mind, they're already in it, and so they can't say no.
Exactly. And
That's the worst.
And so,
too.
yeah, so like Larkin was like, really kind of shocked and decided, yeah, I'll do that, and it's just Larkin. I originally thought Larkin would make a really good Night Beat, because he could have that kind of detective kind of sound, right? But there's not really a good Night Beat figure out there, so Six Gun works really well as a detective, because he was kind of trying to figure out that thief in the night from the G1 episode, so it kind of worked out more.
I mean, the Thrilling 30 beat isn't that bad.
It's the Cybertronian mode. I need a Cybertronian mode.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, but I would say that most of it is headhunting. I could see doing casting calls eventually. I mean, for my animation, for my series alone, and it's not to brag. It's kind of daunting thinking how many, but there's like 163 something characters that will appear. 100% will appear. And that leaves a lot of opportunity for a lot of people that are out there, just audience members themselves. I mean, you're not going to get like a whole episode dedicated to each one of those 163. I could never do that, right? But I like the way the G1 show does it. If you notice, like, say, a character like Thundercracker really doesn't talk that much in season 2, if at all. A character like Thrust, his voice actor actually was kind of a big deal. And I think Ed Gilbert, I think that was Thrust's voice actor's name. And he was only available certain seasons of the year. And so Thrust shows up pretty prominently in a lot of episodes, in his first appearance and Dinobot Island and Megatron's Master Plan and all that. But you don't really see him
love Power Glide. Very important episode.
Right? Yeah. So that's the whole thing. That's how my process is, trying to find people that sound like what I'm looking for. Sometimes people will surprise me and they'll say, hey, I want to play this kind of character, and I'm like, okay. It's like, give me what you got. And Input does, Ion Storm doesn't really have any kind of fiction at all, and so Input was just like, man, I want to play a crazy character. And I was just like, okay, we'll play Ion Storm how you think he should be played. And he just freaking hit it spot on. I was just like, that's a perfect Ion Storm. It's a unique sneaker from all the original 3 and the Coneheads, right? and the Rainmakers having them as part of that. That's kind of a cool kind of setup.
You were right about the voice actor, by the way, Ed Gilbert.
Neat.
Oh yeah, and TFA 1024 does an amazing Optimus Prime.
Whoa.
Oh, stop!
What is
I
that?
got that.
I gotta mention that.
Uh-oh.
Ultra
What is
Marcus
that?
does an amazing Impactor.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, ignore me. I'm just changing the scenery around here.
That's not real though.
Now you have to explain what the scenery is.
This is one of Ben Put's customs. This is Nacelle, right, from the
Wow.
Welcoming Committee.
Yep.
And he does an absolutely cracking job.
amazing.
Does our input, and there's the rear. It's got a white stripe through the wings.
I was going to ask if it was Captain America as a seeker.
To me,
It could be.
all I see is the England flag, even though it's a cross on the England flag. I kind of it's just see. My name's Nacelle. So there you go.
It's Captain Britain, the seeker.
Yeah,
Oh,
everyone
why?
just pulls it.
Shout out to our host as well. Input. He made me a custom slipstream, and she looks amazing. I had to make him from a Siege Starscream, so it's with the Digibash that I did, a few years ago,
Face works
and
so
kind of
well.
brought that to
Yeah,
life.
beautiful.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I need to get a commission from you one day, Input. I swear.
Just hit me up on Instagram, man.
Let you know when I have money.
Fair enough.
Oh, here's why that laser pointer comes in handy.
Wow.
Don't let Thew see this. He'll drive him nuts.
I want to say this. I want to say this about voiceovers and casting calls real quick. I want to give an official apology to Ultra Marcus because I hit him up for everything. I'm like, Ultra Marcus, I need a Rodimus Prime. Can you stamp out a Rodimus Prime in like 10 minutes?
I just woken up from a nap like 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and he's like, "Dude, can you do Rodimus?" And I'm like, "No, I can't, and I don't want to, but I can't tell him that." So, but the guy's got Rodimus, right? He wants to get his Rodimus hype video out, so it's always fun. It's always fun. Input, don't worry.
But yeah, like in all honesty, it's like Ultra Marcus. I go to him first for everything because your turnaround time is ridiculous, and that's yeah. Like I wait on people for a month and a half.
Ooh.
And I send out reminders, and then I get, okay, yeah, don't worry, this weekend, okay. Weekend comes and goes, and I'm like, okay, I've set aside time to animate this week. I was kind of hoping to have those lines on Monday or Tuesday, but you, man, it's, yeah, I'll get it to you by Wednesday. I ask you on Monday, I'll get it to you by Wednesday. Is that okay? Absolutely.
He's a pro.
Yeah. So
That's fun. I enjoy it. There you go. Yep. There's the flag of St. George, I think they call it. I am not English, but that's what it reminds me of, the English flag.
And I get really, and I will say, I also get super excited about the ideas and the voices and stuff. And I go to you because I'm so excited. I'm always like, yeah, man, he'll understand. He'll click to what I'm saying, and he'll understand what I mean. And it turns into like a stop motion discussion and.
That's great fun, man. It's great fun. But I also like sending lines out and telling my voice actors. Are we still on voice actors? Oh, yeah, very briefly. Sure. I like telling them, look, say the line as I've asked you to say it, but also if you've got some other spin on this line, if you think I'm missing a word or a turn of phrase, then by all means, send me another take. Like, once I sent you a line input and you inserted the word astroseconds instead of seconds. Like, I forgot to do that. Of course, Transformers would say astroseconds, not seconds. And so trusting in your voice actors and building a relationship with them and all that, that's quite important. I consider the stuff I do like a collaboration full on with my voice actors. I want them to feel like they've been able to creatively have an input.
Yeah.
Oh.
Put them.
But I will say, If you guys are doing a stop motion, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to throw the question out there. If you're in a Discord or if you're in a group chat or something, don't be afraid. Don't hesitate, because don't think that you have to do it all on your own, because your voice, your normal voice carries in any any voice acting voice that you do, right? Your normal voice will carry into that. So that can be kind of daunting mentally. Like, okay, all my characters sound the same or something like that. Don't be afraid to ask your friends, your colleagues, anything. Just, closed mouth don't get fed. Right.
See,
That's what I'm trying to say.
I mean, is this such a bad thing if your other characters sound the same? I mean, look at G1. How many of the same voice actor voiced different characters and made it their own thing?
It's
not a bad. It's not a bad thing at all.
See, for me, like, I voice everything, but at the same time, when I start doling it out, like this, I've only found a very select few people that have been able to. I don't even know how to put it, because like I've got a certain way of comedy, I've got a certain way of how it sounds in my head, and I've got a terrible way to tell people how exactly I want it to come across with that delivery. Like, I do my best, but sometimes I have to call people up and be like, yeah, this was great, and I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not very funny because the context doesn't work with who Optimus is talking to, for instance. And like, I hate having to call people up and like, could you re-record this? But so a lot of people are like, no, man, it's no problem. But anyways, that's another reason why I don't really do casting calls, is because I'm kind of particular about how I want it to sound.
Yeah, you were pretty thorough with whenever I was I asked about being Ratchet. You told me exactly how you wanted it done, and I tried my best, the best of my ability, to get it how you wanted. Oh, thank you.
But even so, it was still like there are some times where like it was a different way and it sounds better than what I had in my head, and I'll take those. But like for the majority of the time, I usually have to tell people like, yeah, no offense, but
yeah. See, and that's
it's a comedy
the downside of it.
Part of the gig.
Yep.
Yeah, see, that's
like,
the downside.
Delivery isn't funny.
You do have to tell them like, hey, can you redo this line, because you're missing like this article adjective, or this was said like in a French way and not in a American way, or so it is kind of weird to have to ask for stuff like that, because they're doing free work basically.
Or if they get like
exactly.
Or you can always throw money to some people if you want. I mean, people do things for money online.
True.
I'm told.
I've offered to pay even, and a lot of people are just like, no, man, like, I'm just happy to be on your channel. I've been watching you for X amount of years, and it's like, I feel honestly, I feel weird with a lot of praise half the time.
I had some really valid criticism the other day. I reposted that Starscream and Megatron rock paper scissors video, and I was really proud of the work I put in for the voices on that. And someone said that my Starscream sounded like Marge Simpson. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And so it just took on this other meaning for me, and I was embarrassed by it, but at the same time I was like, oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, hey, it can't be any worse than my Rising Warfare video where I voiced Megatron, and he's like, why does he sound like a pirate that's choking on a chicken wing? It's like, I'm sorry, I can't do a Frank Welker where it's like, Decepticons, retreat!
Yeah, you gotta go smoke a pack of cigarettes before you try that, right?
It's because I love John Silver's.
It's the same thing with like Scrapper or like Bombshell. I can't do those type of raspy voices. Like if you needed someone in the form of a leader, like Optimus Prime, I can do that.
Whoa, that's amazing.
That's a very good point.
That's the other thing too. Like Scrapper, the Insecticons, those are really hard to nail down, and Scrapper is too for the Constructicons. And there's actually a voice actor out there is Harry Alpha Scrapper is his name.
Oh, I know him.
And
he's great.
He loves the character of Scrapper, and so of course he does a fantastic, Scrapper, and it just works really well. And it's so sometimes you'll find people that want a voice for you, or if you like really love a character and you want to be that character. Like, I love Ultra Magnus, but nobody can sound like Robert Stack. I've never heard anybody ever sound like Robert Stack.
Yeah.
He is a once-in-a-lifetime voice. But if you can get that cadence, you can get the way he talks, like, they'll destroy everything they touch. You know, if you can get that cadence going of Robert Stack, then at least for the audience, they may not say they may not say something derogatory. They may be like, "Hey, that's an interesting take on an Ultra Magnus," because it still sounds like that G1 that they're looking for, or the Prime.
I went through so much audio of Robert Stack when I was doing this this video for Ultra Magnus for KFC's Ultra Magnus, and so I went through all these old interviews of him, just have him saying random stuff, and I was like, "What can I pick out of this interview to use as audio? Right? What can I reshape?" And going through unsolved mysteries and stuff too. It was really fun. You know, it didn't really come to anything, but you know, wasting 7 hours listening to Robert Stack.
There's some interviews where he's that, you know, they're real old. You can tell they're on a VHS and somebody's uploaded it to YouTube, and you're watching the interview and you're like, okay, there is literally nothing here that Ultra Magnus would say, but this is interesting Robert Stack information.
Yeah, I always liked Ultra Magnus's voice. I can't do Robert Stack. I've actually been practicing a lot of like the 86 movie cast just because I want to. Also, pro tip, if you grew up obviously with Transformers and you end up wanting to do voice acting someday, play with your toys. Like, I'm not even kidding. Literally just play with your toys, make an adventure, do the voices. That's literally how I've done my down pat Optimus Prime, my Megatron, Starscream, all
advice.
That. It's
Good advice, yeah.
Yeah. It really helps. It really helps you channel that character and what you want to do. Like, for the longest time, I always tried to do Unicron trilogy, mainly Armada, because that's my baby. Megatron, you know, it's take that, give him like a Shakespearean type thing going on. It's Beast Wars Megatron just going, yes.
or in this case, it could be, you know, Red Alert, like, Inferno, where are you, Inferno? I need you, really bad.
I'm here, calm down already.
What you need is a force field, Red Alert.
And on that note, I want to thank everyone in chat for joining us on this monthly panel for TF reviewers. Don't forget, guys, Tales from Teletran podcast tomorrow at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will have FJ DeSanto. And don't forget to check out tformers.com for their 25th anniversary celebration of Beast Wars Transformers. And don't forget to check out everyone's channel here on, I guess, on your screen that you guys can see, and all their other social medias and all that other good, awesome stuff. And yeah, and don't forget the TF Reviewers website as well, where you guys can go and check out a one-stop shop for all of your favorite Transformers reviewers. Know when they upload, know when they don't upload, because, well, they won't be uploaded. So
nothing escapes your vision, does it?
Exactly.
Captain Input is on the case.
You know what? That's going to be a new channel, like Detective Input. I'm going to go around and solve like murder mysteries and stuff. So that's it.
You can have a night beat. You can have a night beat icon with 6 gun. There you go.
Like a night beat theme going on.
I'm gonna go. I'll go around the panel one more time. Tell everyone in chat and who's watching where they can find you, starting with Cardboard Bots, because we go in alphabetical order on these shows.
Oh, thank you very much. You can find me. I'm not big on social media. I'm just on YouTube. Sorry. And you can find me at YouTube/cardboardbots, not butts.
Well, you can find me on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram at Crimson, like the dark red color, Raptors, RAPTORS. You'll also find me, I'll be on the show as well tomorrow on Tales from Teletran, occasionally on the show, but I'll be there tomorrow in the cast. And that's where you can find me, Lazy Eyebrow Reviewer. You know what? The Lazy Eyebrow. Where can they find me?
Yeah, not the reviewer anymore, man. Get with the times. That was 3 years ago.
Duh.
Hey, that's how long I've been subscribed to you. It was way more than that, though.
You can find me on YouTube at Lazy Eyebrow, and anything else you happen to find is a bonus. Congratulations, you solved the mystery of where I am. But as I said at the beginning, I hate social media, and frankly, I'm not advertising it.
There you go, TFA. Where can they find you, man?
I am TFA1024, the TF Addict. You can find me here on YouTube. That's youtube.com/TFA1024. You can also find me on Instagram. That's instagram.com/TFA1024. I don't post super often, but when I do, I try to make it worth it. I'm not the best quality type TF content creator, but trust me, when a video's out, I like to believe that a majority of you guys will like it. Trees in a Torn story, obviously, yeah, it's not happening this year. A lot's been happening behind the scenes, and yeah, I owe you guys an update video, or I feel like I owe you an update video. But if you want any updates, personal, anything like that, Instagram is where you'll find all that. YouTube, I kind of just save for whenever I feel like uploading.
All right, Ultra Marcus.
My darlings, you can find me on
now.
YouTube.
I was not prepared for this.
So cool.
On YouTube and on Instagram as Ultramarcus. And as I'm going last, although I'm sure we'll bounce back to our host, do remember to check out everyone's channel here for some wonderful stop motion. I think the best fiction in the Transformers universe is happening on YouTube, and it's being made by people like us. People who are also not here. Go check it all out and leave a comment, because it means a lot to people like us who put a lot of work into this lovely hobby.
I don't know, man. Transformers Animated was pretty good. I don't think you're giving it enough praise there.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not Netflix, okay? I fell asleep. I watched the last 3 episodes, and I fell asleep for each one of them.
Oh, it was a great series. We'll watch it together, Cardboard Bots, one of these days. I'll keep you awake.
And I am your host, In-PUT. That's Input. You guys can find me on the Input Toys Reviews and, well, just toy reviews now, because I have a separate channel, In-Put, spelled out. That's INDASHPUT 2.0 for all my stop motion content, which everything is being stop motion wise put over there, and you guys can find me under that same spelled out In-Put on Instagram and Reddit if you guys want to see custom Transformers. That's pretty much it. So yeah, and as to piggyback on what Ultra Marcus said, if you guys see anybody in chat that you guys are even remotely curious as of their content, what they make, anything, go check them out. Leave them a like, do all that good stuff, and yeah,
Make them feel special.
Yeah. Everyone's just trying to have fun. I think it's the best thing to do is support one another. Also, one more thing. I once again want to apologize for being late. I did not take into account a freaking migraine or anything.
Hey,
so.
You know what? Let me put it to you this way. Did you show up? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Then you don't need to apologize, and that's all that matters.
That's the most important thing.
Thanks, guys.
But knowing is half the battle.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Anthony.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
In fact,